Hey everybody, what up? It's your favorite Asian robot, and one day I will be your favorite Diablo 4 content creator. Now, what I'm here to do today is post proof of how to play the Sorcerer properly, and also to demonstrate to some of the people who are very odd detractors that my build actually works. I'm currently level 49, obviously, because I've advanced since then, and there have been some minor changes to the build to prepare for late game. I'll be going through this when I do my updated video that explains how the Sorcerer moves into the late game from the mid game, yeah? But the minor changes haven't changed the core of the build, and I just want, now I've censored their names so that these people, don't lose their dignity, but if you do check my comment section, I'm pretty sure you can eventually see who they are, but anyway. This person says this build pops like a balloon and lacks so much damage mid-20s. Okay. Well, duh. The Sorc currently is the most underpowered class, in case you didn't know that. But, this build can still slap, even with that. This build doesn't work very well for me. I find myself using lots of heal potions to save myself and being very low on them subsequently all the time. This one we will disprove straight away. It's a very squishy build. I die pretty frequently with it. I don't recommend using this setup. Okay, bro. And last but not least, same dude, but he says, how are you actually doing damage with this build besides waiting for the ultimate to come off cooldown? All the skills appear to be defensive in nature and Arc Lash is minimal damage. Chain Lightning is okay-ish damage but uses a ton of mana. Well, you will see. Now, there have been some changes to prepare for mid-game. Primarily, we've swapped off Fireball to go to Firebolt instead, okay? But the core of the build is still the same. Teleport, Ice Armor, Frost Nova, Chain Lightning, Meteor, same ult, just that our passives are finished, more or less. Okay, Veer's Mastery. If you're ready to see it in action, this footage is going to be raw and unedited. Okay, there's going to be no edits, no cuts. You guys are going to see the whole thing start to finish so that you guys can get a full taste of how we do this. All right? So, what do we do and how do you play this build? Now, keep in mind that there's no build that can be a replacement for your mechanical skill. If you have poor mechanical skill, there is nothing in the game that anyone can do for you to help you, okay? And of course, this build will not help you against the Butcher. Okay, just as an example. So, when they say survivability is poor, I don't know what they're talking about. Basically, if you use your abilities correctly, damage and survival is never an issue. It is never in doubt. Okay, so again, I'm not quite sure what they're talking about. The ideal way... Ooh, let me just grab this crackling energy. The ideal way to start off any fight, okay, assuming that you've actually played the build properly, is to teleport in for your barrier and also for the damage reduction. Once the barrier comes off, you freeze. Okay, you have to use a skill rotation. Once the freezes barrier comes off, you use your normal barrier. If you see an elite, you unleash your ult. Okay.
I need more time.
And of course, you are going to take some damage. Like that should be expected, but by the time you do, a health potion should have dropped. You heal once, pick up your loot, and there's only 33 seconds before your ult cools down. Alright, so what do you do when you have to engage without an ult? Oh no, that sounds pretty tough. Stagger your defensive abilities so that your shield is never down. Alright, don't spam and waste. Don't spam and waste, okay?
I need more time.
Take note that we are effectively dealing with this. Okay, cooldown is back up.
I lack the needed mana.
And there you go, it's done. And notice that it dropped 2 potions and we still haven't used a single one. Okay? This is a dungeon, so the dungeon is scaled to my level. I'm not over leveled or over geared. Alright? As you can see, it's about knowing your skill rotation, mastering your actual abilities, and knowing when they come off cooldown. You have to be very good at this. If you don't master that mechanical skill, no build can help you because the Sorcerer is currently the lowest tier class compared to the others. And the reason is because it is underpowered. Okay, if you spam and waste your potions willy-nilly, there's no one on earth that can help you. Alright? But if you properly stagger your cooldowns, you should have no troubles. Okay, this is very important to understand. Proper management is the ideal key to success here. Okay? If you use your abilities well, you will never have any issue. Okay? Now, just to also explain why we swapped off from the fireball, it's because as enemies get tougher toward the late game, especially World Tier 3 and such, and like I said, we'll be updating the build again, we swap off from the fireball for firebolt simply because the burn damage helps a bit more, especially when enemies don't die instantaneously. So this is something to consider. Alright? But even if you just stick with fireball, it will still be good for you, just that, you know, you'll have to wait for a kill. So you'll be more legendary focused, alright? Which is something else that you need to think about. Okay? But builds do update as we play through them, because that is just the way of life. I haven't even used my ultimate yet, even though I normally recommend using it every time you see an elite. You see, this is what I mean about knowing your skill rotation. If you do it well enough, and I'm playing slow on purpose because obviously I want you guys to be able to see everything and understand everything. If you're rushing in without knowing what you're doing and you get killed, then that's nobody's problem except your own. Okay, you have literally failed yourself. But if you understand the game properly and you properly stack your skills up and strike down your enemies, then you'll have no trouble. Okay? The updated build will show where we place all of our skill points, but essentially, as long as you know your rotations, alright? Once you've got all your passives mastered and your renown bonuses in, there should be no problems. If something big does come up against you, then unleash. This would be the time to unleash. Alright? Don't shy away from using your arc lash, because your arc lash is your bread and butter with this. As you can see, it is blatantly false that, you know, you'd have very low survivability and need to use your potions constantly to survive. If somebody is doing that, then they have failed to understand the fundamentals of the build. Again, this is why I say it's so crucial that you know your cooldowns, know how fast certain things cool down, and understand that you need to prepare adequately. Alright, teleport is one of your lowest cooldowns. It should always be the opener as well as your get out of trouble free. Okay, if you even take the slightest bit of damage but potion drops, use that to heal your damage. Alright, here's me putting on the Defaced Shrine cap. Ooh, this might be nice for a different kind of build. Okay, I got a Greed Shrine. Said I apologize that this footage is going to be unedited, so you'll hear all the sniffles, all the other problems I may have. But this is the only way I feel that I could properly prove to people that, you know, there's nothing secretive going on behind the scenes. It's just, nope, it's just me. Did you see how much health I lost in that fight there? Barely any. But I still used the potion anyway. Alright, it's not difficult if this build is played correctly. Assuming that you do this right, you should never have trouble. Alright? You should in fact be very, very, you know, you should have plenty of survival actually. In fact, this was built to compensate for the sorcerer's absolutely poor survival and heavily nerfed cooldowns, all that kind of stuff, which unfortunately they did that because the sorcerer during the open beta was just too strong. But I feel that they over nerfed it. They overdid everything, and now they've got a different kind of animal here to deal with. This is a good way of showing, like, yes, the fight is slower because the minions have more health, but notice how I'm managing the cooldowns actively so that I know that something is always up. Alright, so here's a much slower demonstration. And then I start hitting with the ult. Okay, unleash chain lightning. I didn't even have to use my ice barrier there, even though I could have, because there was no point. Fight was over. Alright. And it's not specific legendaries causing this. My legendaries are damage over time thing, basic skills grant 20% damage reduction, unstoppable, distant enemies chance to stun, chain lightning as chance to chain 2 additional times. I don't really have all legendaries, but again, you know, this is stuff that is accessible to everybody, so there shouldn't be any major issues or, you know, major problems. In fact, all of my legendaries are mostly defensive in nature because, and the primary problem that people were talking about was damage. That is an innate problem with the sorcerer class itself, but I still think that this does enough damage. Sure, you're not going to see the same kind of numbers that the druid would put out or the necro would put out, but you should still see decent damage, assuming that this is being played correctly. All right, we're going to head toward the end of the map now. We're going to fight off the boss. So here, raw unedited footage of how all this comes together. And of course, it only gets better as we find like more suitable legendaries and such. I just kind of put on whatever I had, you know. Don't forget that teleport also does some minimal damage, so just keep that in mind. It's not a lot, but it can be pretty cool. And that's what makes it such a great opener. All right.
Of mana.
When I really have a bad situation to deal with, I'll pop my ults, I'll pop the cooldowns as they cool down. Because don't forget, your arc flash cools down everything else, which changes the game for you. Alright. And there you go. I used 1 potion in all of that. So again, I'm playing more slowly so that I guess people can absorb the information better. But I hope that this helps. I hope that this helps people understand how this is done, how we play, you know, and how you're supposed to actually use your stuff. Like, I could speed through this and then you guys learn nothing, but that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to show you guys the raw, unedited footage of how we go through this. All right, now off to the boss room. This should be the boss room, I'm hoping. Okay, it is. So same thing, same pattern with the boss. All right, stagger your cooldown slightly. Go ham with your ult. Use my teleport to gap close so that I don't waste the uptime of the ult.
I'm out of mana.
Now if I've got no cooldowns, I'll just back up for the 1 second that it takes teleport to get ready. I'll hit them all with the freeze. Alright. Bosses that move a lot are more problematic than bosses that don't, because this build has fantastic damage reduction against close targets. Alright? So things like the Brood Guard, which are really afraid to engage you in close combat, these are bigger problems than any of the other bosses around. Okay, but you want to keep your barriers up, and while doing damage with your ice barrier, you actually gain more barrier. See? So this can be very useful. Just don't stand in poison. Alright, please. Even your ult will create a barrier for 2 seconds, so use that to your advantage. Alright? Use that to your advantage, and you will dish out fantastic amounts of abuse to your enemies. Alright? And remember, all that you do just helps you cool down everything faster, which is what you want. And there you go, boss fight's over. So yeah, your damage is not going to be as high as the other classes. Everyone agrees that the Sorc is actually the worst tier in the game, but it's also very popular because of how it was in the open beta. And there you go, that's the raw unedited footage of me showing you how to play a sorcerer. Okay? No edits, no cuts. This is how to play it. This is how to actually use the build. proper cooldown management, actual use of your skills, and knowing how to play means that you are still competitive. Not the best, okay, unfortunately. This may change with the Paragon paths. I still have to experiment with that, but you can do everything that I said you can do. No problem, okay? You don't need party members. The build does not pop like a balloon. You know, you don't have any sufferings or issues with damage, you know, and certainly no issues with survival. So I'm pretty sure I disproved all 3 of the statements that were made. Yeah? Okay, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it greatly if you did that. If you want to support my channel further, you can grab a channel membership, which would help to pay for content, and it would feed my family, basically, allowing me to make more content. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys on the next one, okay? Y'all have a good one. Catch you later.